Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Red Path. You're joining us today, myself, Dara, and Brian, for another episode of Competitive Insights. And today we're going to be talking about the recent Munitorum Field Manual, which dropped just this week on Warcom. And it's been a bit of a mixed bag, I think it's fair to say. A lot of factions have gone down in power, some factions have come up in power, and quite notably for the channel, world leaders have taken a bit of a hit with point increases to some of our staple units like the Spawn, Mo, and Angron, and a token point decrease on a unit which is rarely seen in the form of the Winged Demon Prince. And I think it's fair to say that people are a little bit unhappy about this. Brian, how are you kind of feeling about the recent changes?
I'm incredibly frustrated, if I'm being honest. Not from the standpoint of like, did we deserve a nerf? Maybe. Like, probably. The entire like we were sitting like upper middle of the pack. And the absolute top of the meta got gutted. Like they got hit way harder than us. I'm a little disappointed in the way that they did the nerf and kind of the implications because I feel like GW really doesn't understand what world leaders are at this point anymore. Like there's an identity crisis that they're trying to figure out for us. But we'll be getting into that.
Yeah.
I'm a
Well,
little
we
disappointed,
can
but
we can kind of roll into that pretty much, I guess, and unless you have any other thoughts on the broader MFM, which we will be getting into a little bit later as well.
yeah, no, we can go ahead and get started and just
Yeah,
rip the band-aid off for world leaders.
let's get into it. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I for one am kind of the impression that it's much the same viewpoint as you, where yeah, maybe some nerfs were warranted, but the way that they were implemented is frustrating in the sense that they haven't really pushed us to be more diverse with these
So
increases.
so if you use the words internal balance, I expect internal balance. And this was not internal balance. And I've heard the words, this is an internal balance update 3 times in a row. And I think we got like a half internal balance one time where they buffed Terminators and they buffed Hellbrutes. For me, an internal balance is the meta list stays the same in points. You can say 8 bound +5, Berserkers -10. And that would take like the vanilla style list that has 12 8 bound models and 10 Berserker models and make that the exact same net neutral. It is the exact same list. You don't get punished for running the same list, but you're also encouraging people to play Berserker spam on the side. That, in my mind, is internal balance, where you're creating alternative list designs. You're trying to inspire diversity. Um, I'm sorry if I'm like
no,
just
you're
going
good.
on a
You're
weird
good.
tangent right now,
I think it
but
makes a lot of sense, right? Because I mean, if anything, this is just really cementing the idea that this is index 8 bands. I mean,
yeah,
for anyone who's hanging out in our Patreon competitive Discord, will have seen my latest non-gron list is 24 various 8 band models, and
it,
that's pretty much it.
10-man
Um,
Berserker squads are a lot worse now. They're
yeah,
a
10,
lot
10 man
worse.
Zerg squads have kind of taken a tough point in the form of Mo going up and Blood Surge also being nerfed to basically once per phase, which, was that terrorizing the meta? Probably not, but
No, but
here
I
we are.
mean, for the sins of a cursed cultist, but I mean, that could have easily been an errata on the cultist data sheet. Um,
It's good to like
now
homogenize the various different Surge moves. Yeah,
I,
I don't know. It's just it's a very kind of funny situation that we find ourselves in. I think where, and I said this in the Patreon chat today that like for anyone out there who's watching and maybe feeling down about the whole thing or frustrated, um, this meta is gonna be very short lived. Like GW have said
two
that there's
months.
gonna be another points update and balance status slate at the end of this year. So it's the middle of October now. End of this year means probably second or third week of December, I would guess, because they're probably not going to do it on Christmas week. And they're not going to do it during the holiday season either, because who's going to be really caring or talking? They want this to have maximum impact. So I'm guessing maybe, the first or second week of December, we're going to have a fresh meta. And my perspective on this is kind of like, all right, this is pretty annoying right now. How much do I actually need to care about it? How much do you, the viewer, actually need to care about this? It's one thing for Brian, who is prepping for WCW, and for anyone else who might be prepping for a major sized event. I've got two GTs in this time. And ultimately, I'm like, all right, cool, whatever. I'm going to mess around for 2 GTs. I mean, Brian has seen the extent of what me messing around involves. It just before we sat down to record this video, I think I changed my list about 4 times in the last hour. But you don't need to care about this meta too deeply because it's not going to hang
No.
around for very long. So don't be too upset. Don't say like, oh, I need to pivot to a different army. And what I recommended to our Patreons and what I'll say to everyone here now is like, maybe use this time to just like experiment with something that you haven't tried before. If you haven't tried an Angron, give it a try. If you haven't run Angron for a while, which I haven't done, take him out for a spin. Could be fun. If you want to bring some guns into your army, just do it. You've got like maybe, I would say the vast majority of people won't even have a single tournament in this window. It's probably going to be maybe an RTT for most people, maybe a GT for some, maybe multiple for others. But, you know, unless you're really grinding events, this probably doesn't matter, in the
In
sense that it's not going to be here.
and a lot of the frustration that you're going to hear from me right now also is not directed at the current state of the meta. I'm actually of the belief that world leaders are neutral to slight positive from these changes. A lot of the boogeymen in the meta got hit pretty hard on the head, which I think will help us out quite a bit. Notably, Thousand Sons, specific CSM Accursed Cultist variant, and Sisters got hit pretty hard. You're going to see tamer versions of those lists, and I think that's broadly better for us. And if you're running one of the more standard competitive world leader lists, your list went up 30, 40 points. That means you're either downgrading a unit, I am to maintain unit count, or you're just straight up cutting a spawn, which in the grand scheme of things won't change much for us. So it's not doomer at all for like if you're still trying to play it from the competitive angle. No, don't go shelving your armies and taking Rons out of your list and overreacting. Like everything's actually going to be just fine.
It's
I'm
about
just a
the
little,
principle.
yeah, it's the principle for me.
And actually,
Like,
I think we would probably both say it's quite fair that Angron has gone up to 535, right? Like, that's not that big of a deal. He's still probably, well, he's still definitely worth 535. And, spawn going up to 70 is like, that's annoying. But all other spawn in the game are 70 points, except for R1. And we probably also have the best spawn in the game. So,
sure.
can't be too bitter about that. But
Uh,
what we can be real fucking bitter about is the Master of Executions at base going up to 110 points.
So,
I'm going to give you some examples. 110 points in
no,
Deck Guard.
135.
No, no, I'm just going to start with 110. 110 points in Deck Guard buys you 3 Death Shroud Terminators. These are now equivalent to Master of Executions. 135 points is where things get really funny. 135 points is now only 5 points cheaper than Azrael. It is only 5 points cheaper than Trajan Valorous, for example. Another hilarious data point is if you take Ron and the Berserker Glaive Master of Executions and put them together, that is now more expensive than taking Mortarion and Rodigus, the named Great Unclean One. So we are living in this weird world where you look at what other, like Mephiston is 125 points. He's 10 points cheaper than Glaive, and
Helbricht, Grimaldus,
it's crazy.
cheaper.
I think
Low.
I think Helbrecht is
Uh,
now more expensive because he
no,
went.
he's not.
No,
I believe he's like 130. I think we're 135. I
I
mean,
thought he was 140.
I
Anyway,
have it
it's
right
not.
in front of me. I can anger check. But your point still stands that, I mean, he's even cheaper than, or he's more expensive than Logan from Space Wolves, who says army-wide chapter master for a turn. Like,
Mm-hmm.
how nuts would that be if we had it? You'd play that in every non-Gron list to just have Ron everywhere.
I don't get it. I genuinely don't understand at this point
Hal
why.
Halbricht is 130.
Yeah, like Mo is
And
great. Like
and
he is very good, but
sure, everybody's playing Mo, and maybe somebody's tired of having on the GW balancing team is tired of playing against Mo. And you know what? Let's like create some list diversity. So let's just nerf the only unnamed generic foot lord in the army because that will inspire diversity. Because
it's like
people are
we
going to
can't
make
take much more. People are generally already taking Karn. What it does is
and
it this is what we mean when we say berserkers are a lot less interesting because it drives people away from taking berserkers. It's the Mo Berserker Rhino package is now extremely expensive, like very, very expensive, and you do have to start questioning it at a certain point. I mean, you're looking at what a Rhino is
It's like
75, Mo's 135, so that's 210,
it's
and
almost
Zerg's
400 points now.
yeah,
Like
it's 390,
it's like
right? Like it's a lot.
135 plus 180. It's 315 plus 75. Yeah, it's 390.
Yeah.
So but like I was saying earlier, just because Ron and Mo went up doesn't mean you stop running them. We have to run them. With
Yeah.
specific boogeymen running around in this meta, with Blood Angels on the horizon, I don't think we can win the Blood Angels matchup without a Mo.
Oh yeah,
I
for sure, for sure.
Orcs are miserable without fights first. Um,
It's a sad fact that it's like you nerf this unit, but because of the lack of depth in our index, the lack of choice and kind of versatility, especially in the HQ section, yeah, he's eating a nerf. So is Ron. If you really want to be at the cutting edge of the meta, you
and
still have to bring them. Even if you don't want to be at the cutting edge of the meta, you still have to put Mo in because he just he's necessary to come out on
and
top of so many combat matchups.
and you know who gets punished for the sins of Mo and Angron? It's the rest of the list.
Yeah.
The rest of the list just continues to get consolidated into 8 pound.
Hmm.
Especially as players are starting to lose faith in Berserkers. I mean, don't get me wrong, Berserkers are like fine, but Blood Surge is significantly less relevant. It used to be that you couldn't play around Blood Surge, like your opponent couldn't say, I'm going to stand outside of 7, because you could just roll 2 dice over the course of 2 interactions and move up to 12 inches and be within a 13-inch threat range from 2 activations from your opponent from Blood Surge, which was awesome. That was awesome. Now they can just stand at 7 inches and shoot you. And that's not really that hard to do unless it's like really cramped terrain to just stay that 7 inches away. So 10 Berserkers being able to Blood Surge successively really got hit for the sins of a Cursed Cultist.
Yeah.
5 Berserkers don't really get to Blood Surge often, like they can, but it's not reliable, like they may or may not be alive.
Mm.
It's just
Yeah.
five
It
Berserkers.
doesn't matter too much for them, but they're a bit more of a rarity anyway, I think. So it's kind of an annoying one because the best lists are going to be much of a muchness, pretty much more or less what we've seen before. The same discussion points. Um, People are talking about the Wing Prince, and yes, he's cheaper now, like significantly cheaper than what he was. And is there an argument for running him? I would say no in an Angron list, maybe in a non-Gron list. Okay, maybe in a non-Gron list. Um, I brought him in a non-Gron list to Coventry last year, and ran him with the helm, which is the choice. People are talking about the Berserker Glaive. It's still on Mo. The Berserker Glaive doesn't actually really do much for the Winged Demon Prince. Fair enough, if it was still the other version of the Berserker Glaive, then yeah, it's actually really quite good on him. But you take the helm so that he's just a small base size model that deep strikes in your opponent's backlines or somewhere in the midboard and hassles a flanker the deployment zone for a while.
And
And
you intentionally throw him somewhere your opponent can't deal with him, like keep him away from the Meltas, and you just terrorize scouts all day.
yeah,
That's what you want him doing.
and that's fine. But that will run you at about 195 points, and for 195 points, you can get 8 band and some change. And that
Let's
that is actually the fundamental problem with our current index design is you put points into something and you say, well, it could just be 8 band. And every time that we get a change like this, it almost like reinforces that idea that it could just be 8 band. And
which
would these 8 band just be better in here than the choice that I've made?
which is not internal balance.
Yeah, it's
It
actually
is
quite the opposite.
it's like there's like for me for the core like world leader strategy, Invocatus, Mo, and Angron are like the 3 pillars that hold it all together. And
Mm.
if any of those falter, I really feel like we have no edge over any other melee army. And like what keeps us unique and able to play the game on all fronts just completely falls apart. If we don't have those 3 aspects, we just don't have a leg up on any of those armies in any like weird part of the game. We have to maintain those. We have to have Invocatus for his utility and just the play he opens up. He's almost like an extra part of your army rule. Like he's a mandatory 140
Yeah, I
points just
think
to have like
you said the detachment rule is like the scout is just built in because I mean,
it,
yeah,
it's it's almost like
it's
Magnus. Like just got to be able to scout 2 things,
it's
and
very
you can
similar.
build
Yeah,
some lists that don't need them. like some
But I
weird
would
demon
say
engine list. But
Invocatus is actually like more of an auto take than Angron is, right?
oh yeah,
Because
and
if you go non-Gron, you're still taking Invocatus every single time.
yeah, and then
So yeah, it's
Ang
it's frustrating. It is quite frustrating.
Angron is our only flying unit other than the Helldrake and Winged Demon Prince. We have to be able to jump screens. I actually see a lot of value in the Winged Demon Prince and non-Gron just for that reason. Um,
Yeah, I think if you're running non-Gron, and you're not trying to do the castle around the Foot Demon Prince build with the invulnerable save, like my non-Gron lists now have got a Winged Demon Prince with Helm in there, just as a little deposit of something that you can dump in there, and I don't hate it. Like it's not going
because
to
like
be super killy, but it doesn't really have to be for the role that it's filling in your army. If he drops in and flips a primary off your opponent's backfield and maybe scores you a behind enemy alliance, I mean, you're talking anywhere between a 5 to 15 point differential that he's scoring you by himself, and he could pull resources back that the opponent has to then deal with. So like, I don't mind him. Like I am actually like for 195 points for the Wing Prince Helm package, it actually isn't bad as a disruption mechanic. But
and
is it going to be revolutionary for lists? Maybe for Nongron a little bit, but you're not going to see him in an Angron list. Like you're just not.
eh,
You don't have that change to deposit into him.
and as I've gotten seasoned with 10th edition and my local like meta too, and I've grown a lot as a top level player playing at top tables. Um, the most important thing and probably the number one reason why I'm losing those top games is from lack of units. It's from lack of activations. It's from not being able to score my secondaries because I'm too focused on killing my opponent. Not being able to stop secret missions because I just had to send everything forward. And we just don't have that luxury. If you're playing Angron, you don't have that luxury to be able to be buying these 200 point like side piece units when that could just be 8 bound and something else. Um,
Yeah, 100%.
so I probably wouldn't touch the Winged Demon Prince if I was playing an Angron list. Like we just can't afford to. Um, it would
But
be
if you're
one
playing
thing like,
Nongron, give him a try. Like
but if we
he's a cool disruption in there.
But if we were like, and that goes back to like Berserkers just feel so bad because I would love to play like CSM where I just have two rhinos full of 4x5 Berserkers, right?
Mm.
That would make, assuming they were Legionnaires level powerful, that would honestly solve a lot of our problems. Being
Yeah.
able to just launch a lot of cheap trading units around the board. They don't punch up super hard, but they reliably kill scouts. Berserkers like should sometimes won't, especially with an Armor of Contempt. They probably aren't killing 5 scouts. You almost never want to be running 5 naked berserkers in mass. I can see a like Ryan B and myself and even Daro are all talking about just
What do you mean, even
I think
Dara? What do you mean with this shade?
okay, hey, okay. We've been talking for a bit. 5 naked berserkers actually have some viability. Like somebody throws a wall of crude up in front of you, yeah, 5 berserkers are gonna mulch it, right? Like just
Yeah, I mean,
absolutely
okay, like the
blast it.
logic, the context around this discussion is important because we were trying to reinvent Ryan's list. Now that the points were over, so we essentially took out the fuck jug and put in the 5 berserkers so that we maintain the unit pool. Yeah, we lose favored, but I think we're all sort of the vibe that like, yeah, favored's nice, but like if you're gonna lose anything, you probably lose him. Um,
And
and the 5 Zerks is like there's merit to them in the sense of like in this particular build as a Ron list or even as a non-Gron list, there's argument to it as well where functionally all you're doing is they're an extra scout piece that you can put forward that can flip some infiltrators, that can flip the creep break or something like that. They'll run out first and they'll maybe do an action or something like that. They'll instigate the trading flow in a way where you don't feel bad for losing them because they are only 90 points.
because
So
we
yeah,
need to be able
it's
to maintain a way to disrupt our opponent's screens before we can slam them.
yeah,
Like a lot of your top level opponents will just be putting 3 or 4 units in front of you and saying, beat this. And by the time you've beaten it, if you don't have those resources like jackals and berserkers scouting up the board to really eat that stuff up, you're going to be losing 8 bound in those trades. And by the time you actually get to the meat of their army, you have Mo and his brick, the 6 exalted 8 bound, and Angron, and that's it. The rest of your army's dead, and now there are like Tempestus Aquilons on your home objective, and you can't do anything about it.
yeah.
So you don't want to get stuck there. So the 5 naked berserkers I actually like as a solution. I
Yeah,
messed around with it before. I liked it.
yeah,
Um,
I have liked it every time I've run it. It's just one of
it's
those things that when you're messing with a list and you're like, oh, I'm like 20 points over, they're the first thing that goes to turn into a spawn. It's an interesting one because now the way that it falls is that those 20 points are there, so the spawn turns into the five. And if it's an argument over two spawn versus five berserkers, I think you're high as fuck if you think the two spawn are better because they're just not. You got like so much more value out of five berserkers than
it,
two spawn.
and now and again going back to it, like I wish berserkers were just a little bit better.
Yeah.
Because I want them to be like legionaries. I desperately want them to be. This isn't like the best solution ever, but it's the solution we have for the moment, for the next 2 months.
It'll do. It'll do. And
It'll
yeah,
do.
remember, it's just 2 months, guys. Okay, it's not too bad.
So
So I suppose,
I think,
yeah.
yeah,
Sorry.
that's enough of that rant.
Will we flip to talking about the wider meta? Some factions that we are interested in terms of how they changed.
Yeah, there's a few factions that, like I said earlier, we did get touched, and in a bad way. Like we got nerfed a little bit, and it was kind of annoying, and we're losing a lot of our like extra pieces that are just consolidating down or turning into 8 bound. And while
I
that
just
may,
think that like for us, ultimately the bottom line is that it's frustrating, and that maybe the change wasn't necessary, in terms of like we weren't really like we the last couple of weeks we've been like 48% win rate. Like we're not doing that
we've
good.
been ticking down
Yeah,
for a little bit.
the trend because I'm preparing the meta report for this past season. It was like, oh wow, this has been trending down for basically since week two of Pariah. We've been on a downward slope. Now we have like 6 event wins, which is nice in this last season, which is the highest amount of event wins in a season. But yeah, the trend was looking poor, and I think we were talking about this today. I think top level world leader players are broadly speaking going to be fine. They'll still probably 4-1 most events, but the last game, like the 4-0, the game, the tournament winning game is going to be. Oh, I've lost Brian.
I don't know why that happens.
The tournament winning game is going to be more challenging than it was before. So ultimately, I think the upper 5% are still going to be going 4-1. What I think is going to happen is that the middle of the pack will suffer a bit more, and the bottom of the pack will suffer greatly. So I think our win rate is going to actually be relatively stable, but will continue to trend downwards because actually the vast majority of world leader players are upper elo players anyway, which is kind of interesting. The people who have stuck with the faction this long seem to be good players. Now there's still a lot of people who are in the bottom percentage of elo players, but there's very few who are actually in the middle of the pack. And I'll talk about this a bit more in the meta review. We don't need to get into it, but my prediction would be that win rate will slowly trend downwards over these 2 months.
I probably agree with that. I think we're going to continue our downward trend until like just straight lower mid tier.
Yeah.
Um,
That doesn't mean we
specifically,
are lower
it,
mid tier though. That's the thing.
no.
In the hands of a good player, we're still like really threatening.
World leader win rates have always been deceiving,
Hmm.
to the reality of the actual strengths of the faction. And I think
Yeah.
that stems from just back to what GW's identity crisis with us is. We are probably the best army in the game at punishing mistakes. A good player can be able to recognize a mistake from across the table, exploit it, and win the game on the spot, with world leaders. Um, and that can be very toxic, especially when you have a good world leader pilot up against just your average like GT goer that goes to maybe 1 or 2 events a year, big events a year. And they make that critical mistake and then they just get punished instantly. Versus once I get to table five or game five and I'm playing in a top table for the GT win, my opponent's not going to be making those mistakes. And it's a wildly different game that I play with
Yeah.
that opponent. And
It's
that's why
the
we
player
say,
skill and the opponent's skill like just does make for entirely different matchups for world leaders, and it's just how it is.
and
Which
that,
is kind of
that
cool. Like I mean, probably honestly, most factions should be like that. Like as a design philosophy, if it's like the game is harder if you're playing against someone who's better, and you will make the game easier if you're a better player. That should be, the benchmark in a sense. The problem is that like in the broader ecosystem, that's not always the case, and the external balance is going to be interesting in this season because I think, broadly speaking, the head has been chopped off the snake for a lot of the really scary meta armies. Like, we've seen significant enough
Well,
nerfs to quite a few, right?
well, let's go ahead and get into that.
Yeah,
I
we'll
just
talk.
picked
We're not going to talk about everything here, but we'll talk about a
no,
few that jump out. I dibs talking about Blood Angels, by the way.
sure, you get dibs. So starting off, I just want to brush up on sisters. I'm good friends with Scott Ketchum, one of the best sister players in the world, in my opinion. I think he actually is ranked number one right now in ITC. I regularly
I was
playtest
going to
with him.
say, I don't think that's just your opinion. I think that that
It,
is
it
a
is just fact
statistical
now, I
fact. Yeah.
think. His list went up like 210 points or something.
Mm.
And I find it so hilarious that the Triumph went up 60 points since its launch.
It could have gone
A
up 100
model,
and it would still be taken in
just
most
the
lists.
fact that a model warranted going up 60 points and it's still an auto include.
Is wild. Yeah.
Isn't that the codex that was like out for 3 months playtesting before WTC and
Yeah.
that still wasn't whatever. I'm not gonna go down that one. Sisters were a hard matchup for us, and I think they were a hard matchup for everyone, just because they were so brutally efficient. It wasn't because they did anything that was incredibly toxic towards us. Yes, they do have strong rules and strong interactions against us. They were also just probably 30% undercosted on top of that. So now they've kind of pulled that back, nerfed them quite a bit on points. They probably could do more. We're gonna
I
see
believe
Sisters
they,
list.
yeah, they said that they are going to do more in the next balance update.
Yeah, I probably Sisters need rules changes, and a
Yeah.
lot of people were scared that they were going to get the Eldar treatment, where they're just going to have broken everything, and then you just keep nerfing their points. But that doesn't feel good for either party because playing against a few broken things on the table versus a lot of broken things on the table still feels bad. And then as the player on the other side, you also want to be able to play a full army, not just a skeleton army, like Eldar currently looks like. So they're probably gonna that second pass is probably gonna fix a lot of things that GW wants to fix on Sisters. They're still gonna be a very strong army, but now they're down functionally a castigator and a scoring unit, which is crazy to say. That's still probably a rough matchup for us. I'd say slightly favored Sisters.
Yeah, it's a coin toss, I think. Depends.
They're very elite, so if they
Mm.
mess up, you can punish them and take the
The
Morphin Vol
the
brick, the
sisters player
Triumph.
gets punished super hard for a mistake. Yeah. Yeah, they're an
Um,
interesting one though. Let me do Blood Angels, my favorite. Um, Blood Angels, and I'm saying this on the record right now because people are like trying to gaslight me in the World Leaders Discord and the Red Path Discord saying that I'm talking shit. Blood Angels are going to haunt the nightmares of every World Leader player in this balance window. They are going to spread your cheeks from Asia to America. They are going to live rent free in your mind for such a long period of time. Like, they are so undercosted for what they do. If get someone who's good at Blood Angels to send you what they consider to be a powerful or meta Blood Angel list right now, there is so much stuff in those lists. It's not even funny, and all that stuff is so much better than our stuff. The only thing that we have on Blood Angels is that they don't have a Demon Primarch because everything else they've got will outtrade you in every facet of the game. They are going to be so good because they got a lot of points reductions and they have easily, easily the best infantry character in the entire game in the form of Mephiston. It's not even like remotely close. Like, and some of their characters became very, very cheap. Astra is 105 points now. You're going to see him in every list. Dante, also pretty cheap, going to be in every list. There's going to be some
I think
amalgamation of captains as
I
well.
think you jam every single named character you can in Blood Angels. That's the only thing stopping them from
Ramargus is a
running their
bit
broke.
maybe. He's really good, but the problem
Nah,
is that
-1 damage, Jet the company.
but
That's
it's that or Astra who gives the whole squad I think reroll
why not
ones to
both?
wound and dev wounds.
Why not
Because
both?
no, you don't want two deck company bricks because you want more Sangard. They so
Oh, you're
the
going that route. Yeah, I
okay
mean, I'm saying the
the
lists
way
I've seen
that you
have
look at
everything
this, the way that you look at this is deck company are berserkers and Sangard are 8 bands.
that are cheaper.
Yeah, they're not as killy as 8 bands, so they're very equivalent to 8 band in many ways. I think 135 is actually a tiny bit too cheap. I would put them at 140, the same as regular 8 band. Um, the problem is that both those units are very comparable to the World Eater counterpart. But both those units have incredible character support. And this really highlights the World Eater problem. Because Deck Company on paper are pretty much exactly the same as Berserkers. They're a little bit more expensive, but they have better war gear selection. The issue is that you can actually put amazing characters with those units to make them incredibly good. And we're not just talking about Mo and Karn, who are good in their own right. It's like, imagine having Mo and Karn and like three other options that were all equally as valid as Mo and Karn. That's outstanding. And then you look, imagine if 8-bound had like really good character support. Yes, it would make the squads very expensive, but I mean, Dante, for example, +1 to advance, +1 to charge rolls when they have
Just
access to advance and charge, -1 to hit, battle shocks you when you fight them. They're
imagine
also
if
-1 to wound. It's crazy.
imagine if Karn's profile was an 8-bound leader's profile. Move 3 8-bound that does like 9 attacks on a charge that lets the exalted 8-bound reroll once to hit and wound. Like that would be nuts.
Yeah.
But instead,
Yeah. So they have a
uh,
lot of great stuff, and they also have very juicy range supports. Battle Predators, still terrifying. I am a little bit sad that the Deck Company Dreadnought didn't come down more in points because I love that data sheet a lot. It's flat 8-inch move Blood Surge is really cool, but it's very expensive for what it does. So sad news there. But yeah, I think you're gonna see actually a lot of people are talking about the Angelic Host attachment. I think they're like kind of gaslighting themselves into thinking that it's good when Liberators exists and it's just raw better. But people see Up and Downy and they're kind of like, oh yes, I know how to run this.
yep.
But Liberators has some crazy good stuff in there,
This,
and I think we're
yeah.
going to see like Blood Angels are really popular. I think they're actually the most popular Space Marine army out of all of them, so they're going to crawl out of the woodwork like everywhere in the next
If
few
they
months.
weren't, they will be. Like
I'm almost sure they are actually the most popular one because people are like, oh,
probably.
Ultramarines, but the color red.
Yeah, but
um,
just Angron's not safe. Any of those characters we just named, Astereth, Lamartes, Dante, all of them probably clap Angron on the charge with Lance Lethal just for a CP Lance Lethal. Yeah, Angron's probably not living that. There's a good chance he might, but the fact that that's even an option for an infantry unit is insane.
-1 damage is how you're going to fight your way through the blood. And
Correct.
like, I'm not saying that the game is unwinnable. I think a equally skilled Blood Angel and World Eater player at the high level, it's a very interesting game. But at the lower end of the spectrum or at the mid tables, you are going to get absolutely railed by Blood Angel players because it's just they will outtrade you. It's the simple aspect of will have more units on the table.
And what's going to happen is they're going to take, for me, 20 jump pack Death Company intercessors, put them in the middle of the table, an inch away from the wall, God forbid, if you're playing GW like me, so you can't interact with them. And then on your turn, they will rapid ingress Dante, shove a Calidus so far up the middle of the board that your -1 damage now costs 3 CP, and you get the choice of -1 damage or interrupt. And they are going to quadruple charge you with 4 things that one-shot everything in our army. And then your response, like, you better have a very good response or very, very good positioning where the game's just going to be over. Do not ever charge with Mo if they have a Sanguinor. Sanguinor like haunts Mo's dreams. Like Mo haunts like everything in the game's dreams from what he used to do to them, like one-shotting Magnus. The Sanguinor is there, like that's like the meme of like the wrestler and a bigger wrestler
I was
behind
gonna
him.
say it's like the
It's
meme of where it's like the person aiming a gun at someone in the church, and then there's another person behind them aiming a gun at them.
that's exactly what it is. So just be careful. You like
Yeah,
forgetting somebody has a Sanguinor can lose you the game on the first turn if you just charge with the Mo into something. So just
because
be careful.
oh no, he can't deep strike in the first turn anymore.
Oh, can he not?
That got
Okay,
FAQ.
go. First turn,
Yeah,
advance and
okay.
charge Mo
Send
out.
Mo
That's the
in.
play.
Scout
That's the
Mo.
play.
Don't even attach him. Just scout Mo.
Get
Yeah,
your value before you can't, guys.
it's an
So
interesting one,
uh,
and it's a very careful game. Actually, you know what's good in this game? 5 naked Zerks to instigate the trades.
no, because they may or may not even kill the scouts or jump pack
Oh,
intercessors that
come
Armor of
on.
contend.
You know they will.
In
You
fact,
know
the
they're
lists I've
gonna.
been looking at don't even run scouts. Like it's just
Most of the ones I've been sent to. But yeah,
okay.
it's
Well, it,
we're spending a while on Blood Angels.
so
Needless to say, they're gonna be
we'll get
strong.
off that. Yeah, that WCW Blood Angels are the winners. I'm predicting that army wins
I think
WCW.
Blood Angels or Tau will win WCW.
Tau is also terrifying, but I don't really have them on my talking points list. Just know that they didn't change, and breachers send us into the sun.
No, that they did
Um,
change. They got more stuff in an army that already had tons of stuff.
most of the competitive lists I saw were like net neutral or like they got 20 extra points to play with.
Yeah.
Just because everybody's running 3 Riptides and they got
Mm,
hit, but people are running Crute screens and they got buffed, so it was like evened out.
yeah.
Next Thousand Suns got thrown down the stairs. Everything in their army went up 10% in points,
Yeah, like pretty
a
much
little bit more.
everything. It was
Magnus is
crazy.
465 points, which is hilarious. Cool. He's still gonna get played. Like,
Yeah, they T Sons have the exact same problem that World Eaters do, where it's like, damn, our stuff went up. Guess I'll keep taking it.
yeah, I guess I cut Zangors. Keep going.
Yeah,
Like, there's just
yeah.
um realistically the changes boil down to from what I've seen everybody say is they lose a character or they lose a Rubric Marine squad. That's it.
Which
So that's
is
big.
significant. Yeah, it's actually
That's
really
one
significant.
less thing to Overwatch us,
And one
which is
less thing to give
awesome.
them Cabal points.
Correct.
Yeah.
But they're still gonna double Doom Bolt us in the face.
Well,
Matchup
you'll
stays
never be
hard.
able to curb the double Doom Bolt. Funny Doom
No,
Bolt man will always haunt you. Um,
specifically your Demon Princes.
yeah. Goddamn
But
funny Doom Bolt man. uh,
T-Suns is still going to be hard. That matchup hasn't flipped dynamically in any way.
but they are easier.
Correct.
They're easier.
Now they feel their mistakes because it used to be like if a Thousand Suns player makes a mistake, they pretty much lost the game on the spot. Like it's a reverse like snowball effect where if they start losing their Cabal points, they fall. They just like the wheels fall off the car. Um, Now it's just that, but more. Like
Yeah.
now they're starting with 3 wheels instead of 4 wheels because one already fell
That's a
off on the
great
highway.
analogy. But they're magic men, so the wheel is, it doesn't even matter. The wheels aren't working anyway. They'll still
Um,
be good, but I definitely think it's less of a scary matchup, especially at the higher end now. Like a small slip up or dice going in the wrong direction. For example, a funny Doom Bolt not doing what it's supposed to do is actually extremely costly now.
Now talking about an army that I actually fear more than Blood Angels, Dara.
There's no such
Um,
thing.
I don't want to play against this army, not because I don't think I can beat it, but because I think I will just have the most unenjoyable game of my life.
Oh, let me guess. Let
And
me guess. Let me guess. Give me one more hint. One more hint.
um,
A vague hint.
I don't.
You don't have
What
any.
got me thinking? Because I don't want to give it away.
I mean,
Just
I've
guess.
got.
Just guess.
Okay, it's an army that's you think you can beat, but one that is going to be a nightmare to play against. I've got two contenders in my head. One of them is Grey Knights in my
No,
head. The other is
no.
Imperial Guard.
There it is.
Okay, yeah, Guard
Imperial
is.
Guard. Bulgrin got rocked pretty hard with the nerf, and don't let that gaslight you into thinking that things are going to be okay because they just guard players just suddenly did the math. They're like, funny meat shield that doesn't die, it doesn't do the trick. So how about I double it and give it to the next person, and I just play 3 or Tempestus Aquilons, lock you from doing anything. Which, if you don't know what that squad does, it's the new kill team, and good luck to any guard player actually hunting those down because I'm pretty sure those are getting scalped to high hell right now. Um, that squad is a 10-man squad that has decent shooting, that has the rule on it that it can 3-inch deep strike anywhere it wants on the table.
And not locked
Not,
their turn. They
and they
can
can do it
rapid
3 times
ingress if
in
they
one
want to
turn.
do that.
So you're
Yeah.
careful with your Rhino, with your Moe in it, because they will all drop down and hold hands and laugh at you while Moe's stuck in his car for a turn. They will come down in your backline, and they have enough shooting to pick Jackals up. They have 20 shots at AP, and they can even throw a Melta at your face. If that doesn't do the trick, they're just gonna screen and block you wherever they want, whenever they want, without actually having to like think about it. They're just like, oh, wouldn't it be nice if I had a screen? Yeah, it would be nice, and then it just appears. Like that's how it
Aren't
feels.
they regiment as well? Can't they be reinforced?
Probably, I wouldn't be surprised. They have the
I think
grenade
they can
keyword
be.
too, so they
Yeah.
can come down and grenade you and shoot Shears Jackals just to really make sure they're dead. Um, so instead of having this unkillable wall of Bulgrin, they're just going to play the most uninteractive game of where do I need my screen? Okay, I guess it's here. On top of also screening you with other things just in case you slip past that. And then whatever. I have no intention that doesn't sound fun at all to play against.
It's a winnable matchup, but it's painful.
I don't want to play against that. It does not sound fun to play or play against.
Mm.
Um, that's just kind of like guard players. I don't know why they're obsessed with alternating between the most unfun play styles in the game. Like they're like, what if I ran 18 Bulgrin and stared at my opponent and said, beat this? What if I only ran 3 Medusas, 3 Basilisks, and 3 Manticores and said, beat this? Like it's just a contest every single time. I don't get it. Okay, moving on from that rant. How about Death Guard? You seem to love your Death Guard. You want to talk about Death Guard for a second?
Do I love my deck card? I mean, okay, it's gonna be challenging when someone puts what is it like 37 Terminators on the table.
Oh yeah, I played against a meme list Arch City GT with Jamie. That was where he ran his Corner of Skulls, and or I didn't play against it. I played next to it. It was 37 Terminators. It was 20 Blight Shroud or Blight Lords, and then 12 Death Shrouds, 3 Sorcerers, Typhus, Mortarion. Yeah, that list just dropped like 150
Got
points.
like 5 more Terminators.
Or I just got more Brigands
Yeah.
and stuff, which also dropped in points. Like,
Okay, it's kind of a funny one because like yeah, obviously deck card are really powerful. Was kind of like talking to Aiden during the week, and we were just kind of saying how lame it is that they're like, we'll make 3 deck card Terminators as cheap as Mo now, and we'll make Mortarion 300 points. I'm like, I would actually not like to be playing deck card in this current like ecosystem because it's just like all my stuff feels like it's still a trash can on the table, and it's just super cheap. So I have tons of it, and you don't. I think you've kind of actually gotten to the point now where your army doesn't feel like a Marine army anymore.
it's like the inverse of the Eldar problem, where it's like
It
we don't have
is, yeah,
anything because it's all we don't have anything because it's all broken. Meanwhile, Death Guard's like we have everything and I don't want any of it.
yeah, and I mean, yes, Mordarian is now 300 points. Yes, that is crazy cheap, and
There
yes,
is still
he is
arguments
still
over
yeah,
whether
he is
playing him.
still just like you look at his data sheet, and it's like, wow, that really sucks for a demon Primarch. That would suck for a regular Primarch. Like
Like
it
when
is, it's okay, they're good. Like they are genuinely good. If you wanted to play deck guard at a high competitive level, which I'm sure the guys in Disgusting and Resilient will have loads of content about that, and that's great. You can do it. I don't know if you're gonna feel great about doing it because it's just still gonna be kind of. It's like nothing is
but
like fundamentally changed for you as a deck guard player. You just have even
more
more
stuff.
stuff.
But
Yeah.
looking at Mortarion's data sheet, if you're trying to sell me on, yeah, this guy looks really annoying to kill, and that's my Demon Primarch is he's really annoying to kill. That's the only thing he has going for him.
Yeah,
At a
and he's
certain
not even
point,
that annoying to kill. you
uh,
know.
at a certain point, you take him just because he's cheap enough and he has
Mm.
enough wounds. That's
He
that's all it
probably
is.
is maybe at that point now. I just
He,
think I find it kind of funny that for the 3 cult legions in this edition, they have either slightly or greatly missed the mark in terms of like broadly designed. I feel like world leaders are like almost there. It's just we actually lack the diversity. Thousand Sons have a lot of really cool rules, but those rules are a little bit cracked. And then Deckard just like don't have an identity anymore, other than just being like tons of marine bodies, because they don't have durability. Like Exalted 8 pound are more durable than Death Terminators. So here we are.
isn't it true?
I don't know. I just said it.
I don't think that's true,
I
but
think that it's probably true. I mean, like, if 5 field of pain is like,
we're gonna.
yeah, I'm
Well, I mean,
right.
they're -1
Okay,
to wound with a
yeah.
4-up invuln, right? Like, and a 2-up save. Like, I feel like it's at least
No,
comparable.
no, 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 no.
Okay.
100% not. I once had Karen kill 6 in a row in one activation.
Well, Khorne just is baller.
Yeah.
Um, so
Okay. Okay. Other
l-
big meta one is Deathwing or Dead. What are they actually called? Dark Angels.
Dark Angels.
Yeah.
They got kicked pretty hard.
Yeah.
Screw it. That army. It was also one of the least fun armies ever to play against, but it's worse.
Yeah, I would say at this point, guys, if you feel like your faction has a hyper durability build, which seems busted, maybe don't go spamming it too much because it's probably going to be gone in a couple of months, especially if you find one in this meta because it's definitely going to be gone in a couple of months. So yeah, they obviously got kicked. I actually didn't think that matchup was like incredibly difficult compared to other ones in the previous meta. We could kind of break them if they made small mistakes, or we could lock them out. It was a really frustrating matchup, but it wasn't like the end of
Correct.
all times.
It was just one of those, did your opponent make more 4-ups than they should have?
It was an
Okay, I
old
guess they
Custodes.
did.
It was like Custodes in January matchup, kind of.
Yeah, it definitely feels like playing against Custodes, or sometimes the game's just out of your control because your opponent rolled 70% of their dice as force.
Yeah.
Um,
So it got easier.
which that matchup did get quite a bit easier. I think they went up like 150 points,
Yeah.
which hurts their point scoring. And this is back to the original point I made with World Leaders, where it's so important for us to keep our unit count the same.
At a certain
and not
level, yeah.
at a certain level because all of these armies are losing units. And if we
Mm.
can maintain unit count, even though we die and kill the same amount, our scores will be much higher. Like these extra scoring units will score you 10, 15 points extra a game. So make
Yeah.
sure you're keeping your unit count up there. That's how you get an edge on these armies that were originally giving us a hard time.
Yeah,
And
100%.
then kind of the last one I wanted to touch wasn't really a meta problem. It's just more of an interest for me. CSM.
Oh
Um,
yeah, no, that one's super interesting. Yeah, we're actually both into that one because
uh,
both of our CSM lists change.
yeah. Everybody was laughing at the 10-man Raptor point squad getting a discount, but I was cheering in the corner like a weirdo.
Yes, now is the time. And didn't 5-man warp talents get cheaper as well, but not the 10-man? I'm like, is this a targeted dread talent buff?
I mean, sure. Let's go with that. Havoc's got buffed. Oblitz got buffed. Feels good to be shooting CSM. Straight up playing 15 Havocs is kind of baller right now, especially if you're playing like Renegade Raider.
Oblits are gonna be real spicy. Liam
Uh,
VSL's LGT winning list gained points, like gained enough points to
I
gain a cultist
messed
point.
around with that list or a version of it. I kind of cut the Lucius squad out and put
Mm.
more of the veteran style stuff in there, and that felt real good to
That
play.
list is good. Veterans is such a sick detachment. Like,
It is really good, and that's where
yeah,
Oblits shine the most, guys. Don't try to play Oblits and like some of the other detachments. They really need the rerolls to work.
yeah,
They
for
don't really
sure.
work in Renegade Raiders. They don't really work. They kind of work in Dread Talons. But Veterans is like their home. Like
Mm.
that's where they were meant to be, and I played them in there. Like sure, they hit on fours indirect, but you're rerolling sustain, so you're going to average pretty much hit it with everything, and you're probably wounding on twos with whatever you're shooting at. They're nuts. Havocs, playing 15 of them, feels great. Just Las Cannon Hell Central. Like,
Especially in
I
vets.
even put Las Cannons on my Legionnaires. Like the Las Cannons hit on fours, but when it's sustained and you're re-rolling, suddenly you shoot your opponent with 20 Las Cannons and that turns into 30 somehow every single time per
Magic.
turn. Like that's fucking nuts. Um,
Yeah. No, I'm
uh,
actually like pretty happy for CSM players. I'm like, you know what? Cool. They actually like did a pretty good job of curbing
that
some
was internal
problems.
balance.
That was
That
actually
one,
really, yeah, that was pretty
that's
solid
internal
internal
balance.
balance.
So
Yeah,
I used to think there was an A team and a B team writing the codexes. Now I think there's an A team and a B team writing the field manual,
yeah.
and they each could assign
Maybe,
different armies, and they're like,
maybe.
solve this problem. And whoever's writing the
Yeah,
World
they
Leader one has,
actually they did
yeah,
a really
whoever's been
good
writing
job
the
at
World Leader
CSM.
one hates Mo because they've probably gotten
Yeah, someone
trash
apparently.
canned by the D3 Mo too many times. The
It's
5 damage
plays,
Mo.
and I'm the problem. And he's still thinking about it.
So
um,
I
for
mean,
my end in the CSM, obviously the ACDC bricks went up. So for Chaos Cult, it's like I saw them all go up, and I was like, oh fuck, this is probably bad. And I went into my list, and I was like, my list has gone up 90 points, and I was like,
drop one
delete
thing.
Felgor Ravagers. Now my list is 2,000 points in the nose, and it feels like I genuinely haven't lost anything. I might have gained something by not having to paint 10 beastmen.
And don't let it deceive you though. Like the Blood Surge was really what was driving a Curse Cultist up because they are incredibly durable, incredibly lethal, and it was a big problem because your opponents would sit there and try to chip them down. It's a horde. You can't kill them in one activation, so they thrived off of being able to Blood Surge just forever. So,
I still think they're amazing in Chaos
oh
Cult
yes, 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 they're still
because
amazing,
they're
but
faster in Chaos Cult than they are anywhere else as well, which
you
is
just got to be
important.
more conscious with your placement of your Curse Cultists. You now can't get bailed out by the Blood Surge. Like people can just
Yeah,
play around it now.
yeah, for sure. They have to push backwards, which is always good for you as
Yep.
the Chaos Cult player. Overwhelm them. I think Cult is in an amazing place, and I am officially like properly working on my cult now. It won't be ready for quite a long time because I have to paint like 240 models. But when I get there, it'll probably have gone through like 3 other changes. Maybe it'll be better or worse by then. I don't know, but I'm actually broadly happy with the change to the ACDC bricks because they were very cheap and could kill literally anything that I put them
Anything.
into on Unit Crunch. Now they are still cheap and still kill literally anything you put them into. They are still one of the best unit combos in the game, hands down. It's not even a question. If you like, yeah, just look at them in Chaos Cult. Look at the combo stuff you can do because it's wild. I think the only thing on Unit Crunch I couldn't kill was a Warhen Titan, and I took it down to 8 wounds anyway. So fuck that guy. When it swings
Just
back, I'll
charge
do
it
the
with
one
two.
CP stratagem to just like blow my guys up and kill it with mortal wounds. Easy. Yeah, they're in a kill one. I'm excited to see where Chaos Space Marines develop in the next couple of months. I think
I think they're gonna be real good.
Yep.
specifically in the hands of skilled pilots.
Yeah, for sure.
Because CSM is very much like a scalpel army. They want to go in and they want to hit you where it hurts really fast, really hard, and then just from there snowball.
Mm.
If you try to play a fair game of CSM, usually you get run over pretty quick. So you just kind of gotta know where to hit your opponent, which is a lot of game knowledge stuff. Just why you see CSM be one of the lowest win rates in the game, but also I think most event wins of the season.
Or if that sounds like a lot of work, you could just put 200 cultist bodies on the table, not think about anything like that, push them across the table, and just win the game, which is a better way of doing it if you're lazy and don't want to think about it. But you will have
So
to procure 240 cultist models.
you know how you do that, but with only like 40 models? Just play Blood Angels. And
That
that's the moral of the story of this
ooh no,
video.
there's a lot more than 40 models in their lists.
Oh, my bad. Like 50, 60, some whatever. If you
Yeah,
just want to
it's.
not think and push stuff across the board and your opponent just disappears, play that army.
I don't think that's true. I think there's still a lot of skill in piloting Blood Angels correctly.
Okay, maybe I'm
They're
being a
what
little
non-Gron
salty.
wants to be.
I'm being a little salty right now. Um, I want my Disciples of the Red Angel. I'm looking
Yeah,
forward to the future. I think WCW, I'm hoping they're going to reveal some. It'd
something.
be weird for them to tease Emperor's Children in the last reveal and then just not do anything chaos related in the next one.
I don't
So
think
I
we're
think we're
gonna
going
get
to see
anything chaos related, but we can speculate on that another time.
it's the hopium.
Yeah, maybe a little bit. All right, let's start wrapping this one up and summarizing it. I think broadly speaking, yeah, stuff's annoying. Do you have to care about it for very long? Not really.
No.
Um, is it so annoying that it like fully reinvents the wheel? No, it's just frustrating. Like that's literally all it is. It's kind of like GW came over with like they didn't like try and stab us to death. They just like had a fork and they like jammed it into our ass a little bit. And it was like, I didn't really like that, but I'll get over it, I guess. And I think that's like broadly where it's at. I think there's like actually some fun innovation happening in like the non-Gron community. I might just make a non-Gron like channel on the Discord. Um, but yeah, there's like some fun stuff going on there. People have some fun ideas, and I'm here for that. But broadly speaking, Angron lists aren't really going to change like at all. Um, if you're going 4-1 with Angron, you're probably still going to keep going 4-1. If you're going the lower echelons, probably going to be a bit more of a challenge, but like your return is not really going to change that much. And now, if you bring Angron back, you've made even more profit. So
It's
consider that.
true.
Consider that. You can tell your opponent that as you bring him back, put him on the table. Just be like, I've actually gained more points back in my army than I did a couple of months ago. And see how that makes them feel. But yeah, what do you think, Brian? Any final thoughts before we close it out?
Yeah, just reiterating, I don't think we really got nerfed. I think, like I said, on a fundamental level, this is just annoying. Because now I know a lot of world leader lists are at 2,000 points, and we're just like sighing while looking at our phone because like everything in our roster is like now the cheapest thing is 65 points. So trying to make the funny number add up and also be like tolerable, like the 1980 plus is tolerable in my head. Is I don't know. It's frustrating.
Yeah.
Meta wise, we're gonna stay around the same. A lot of our bogeymen got hit. Blood Angels were already a really bad matchup for us before. I actually think the matchup's like the same or maybe a little bit easier, but like a little bit easier on really bad still equals really bad. So I think we're gonna stay about the same. Don't panic, guys. Use this time to innovate. Like if you see like those weird gaps that you're trying to fill, maybe try out a Forge Fiend, try out some things that you haven't been doing. Do something new. Play in the meta. The
Don't
meta.
put Terminators in your list though. Definitely don't do that.
Yeah, Blood Angels munch those. Don't do that.
Yeah.
So
100%.
straight into the wood chipper with those things. But yeah, that's all I got.
It's gonna be fine.
I think
It'll
it'll
be
be
fine.
fine.
Yeah.
This is the meta that I got to mess around in for. I have a GT in a week, and I have a GT in a week after that, and then I have WCW like right around the corner. And this is the WCW meta, so I'm going to be putting my head down to actually figure out what I think is the best and most efficient list. I'm not going to be messing around, no more cute stuff. So
Yeah.
that's going to be what I'm up
And on
to.
the other end of the spectrum, I'll be getting high as fucking non-ground fumes again. But you know, if you do want to come and learn a little bit more about the higher end World Eater gameplay, you can check out our Patreon down below, which will give you access to either our competitive focused or hobby focused Discord channel, where you can get a lot of good insight from Brian and insight from me.
Yep.
You can just hop into the Discord. We do have a general competitive channel in there. You probably won't catch us in there as much, but we are hopping around, and you'll get pretty good takes from other people in the community as well. If you have enjoyed the video, do please consider subscribing, liking the video, showing it to a World Leader player you know and love, and maybe seeing what you can do in these couple of months. I do strongly suggest that everyone push some experimentation, mess around with some stuff, and see how it goes.
Yeah, and if you guys really want to see some cool ideas, like specifically now in this really weird meta that we're in, you're going to get a lot of innovation from both Dara's end of the spectrum and my end of the spectrum. I'm going to be trying to grind and figure out what's the best. I like bouncing ideas off of you guys. I like getting community interaction. So if you want that, please consider joining the Patreon. That's usually where I slam most of my lists. So
the Patreon is like, we marketed it as being there for you, but it's really there for us as like a bouncing wall to be like, all right, am I high or is this good? But yeah, it's fun, and there's a really nice community in there as well. Yeah, we got lots of stuff coming up. I will hopefully have the meta review of the last season out next week, so look forward to that as well. And we have actually got so much content coming up, it's not even funny. We're back on it in a big way. We got some cool announcements coming up as well. You're going to want to stay tuned to the Red Path. But I think for now, it's probably time to wrap this one up. I have been Dara. This has been Brian. Thank you very much, as always, Brian, for joining us. And until the next one, folks, you stay healthy, stay safe, and kill, maim, burn.